We are holding towards the end of the first paragraph of Sif Dalid in the Maimer Margala Bepumei Tafshin Mem. In the last Shiurim, we learned the question of the Maimer, Frierdiker Rebbe's question. The Frierdiker Rebbe asks on the statement of Rava. Rava says, Tachlis Chachma Tshuva Maisim Tevim. The essence of Torah is that it should be accompanied with Tshuva Maisim Tevim. The Frierdiker Rebbe asked, how can we say that the essence of the Iker of Torah is Tshuva Maisim Tevim? That was the question we asked Sif Aleph, and we elaborated on the question Sif Beis. In Sif Gimel, the Rebbe brought the beer of the Frierdiker Rebbe. In order to answer this question, the Frierdiker Rebbe brings the Maimer HaZoyar. It says in the Zoyar, Leis machshava tvisabach klal, aval nitvas iu berus deliba. No seichel, no intellect, has the ability to grasp the very essence of the Eibishter. However, the essence of the Eibishter, atzmos, can be grasped through Ru'us Daliba. And we explained in the last Shiurim the simple pshat of this Zohar. What is Ru'us Daliba, and why is it that we say Ru'us Daliba is greater than Machshava, that Machshava cannot grasp atzmos, but Ru'us Daliba can. That we discussed in the previous Shiurim. In the end of Sif Gimel, the Rebbe asked a very basic question, and that is, how does this Maimer HaZoyar help us understand the statement of Rava? What is the connection between the two things? The Frierdiker Rebbe uses this Maimer HaZoyar of Leis Machshava Tvisabach Klal Aval Nitvas Iu Berus Deliba to explain why the Tachlis of Chachma, why the Iker, why the essence of Torah is Tshuva Maisim Tevim. However, simply in the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimer, we do not understand how the Frierdiker Rebbe connected these two ideas. How does the Maimer HaZoyar, how does this vart in the Zohar that we can grasp atzmos through Ru'us Daliba, and al-derech zeh the Frierdiker Rebbe applies it to Tshuva Maisim Tevim, how does this concept that we can grasp atzmos through Ru'us Daliba and Tshuva Maisim Tevim help us understand why the essence of Torah is Tshuva Maisim Tevim? That's the question that Rebbe asked in Sif Gimel. In order to answer this question, in order to properly understand what's going on in the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimer, how does this Maimer HaZoyar help us understand the statement of Rava? So the Rebbe goes on in Sif Daled to explain the Maimer HaZoyar itself. What is really going on in the Zohar? The Zohar says that we can grasp atzmos through Ru'us Daliba. However, the Rebbe introduced in the beginning of Sif Daled, based off the Maimer of the Frierdiker Rebbe, that the truth is, even Ru'us Daliba, which again, Ru'us Daliba is this Ava Atzmos, a Yid's inherent and natural Ava, his inherent and natural love that he has to the Eibishter, the truth is that this love cannot grasp Atzmos. This love on its own right, Ru'us Daliba, the Ava Atzmos, cannot be Teifis and Atzmos. The only thing that can grasp, the only thing that can connect the Yid to Atzmos, to the very essence of the Eibishter, is the fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs. If so, what is the Zohar saying? The Zohar says that a Yid could grasp Iyu through Ru'us Daliba. So the Rebbe explains in the beginning of Daled, that we learned in the previous year, that what the Zohar is saying is that the truth is a Yid can grasp Atzmos through Tshuva Maisim Tevim, through the fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs. However, in order to be Teifis Atzmos through Tshuva Maisim Tevim, a Yid has to fulfill the mitzvahs mitech bittul. A Yid has to do the mitzvahs just because they are the Ratzon of the Eibishter. And how does a Yid come to fulfilling the mitzvahs in such a way? How does a Yid ensure that his fulfillment of Torah and mitzvahs will be mitech bittul? That is specifically when his Torah and mitzvahs comes as a result of the Ava Ru'us Daliba. When a Yid has an Ava, when a Yid reveals his Ava Atzmis, his inherent and natural Ava, that will lead him to fulfilling the mitzvahs mitech bittul, mitech kabbalah sol, doing the mitzvahs just because they are the Ratzon of the Eibishter. And then that's when a Yid will be Teifis Atzmos through the fulfillment of Torah and mitzvahs. That's what we learned last year in the beginning, the first part of the first paragraph of Sif Daled. We're holding towards the end of the first paragraph by the words the Ksha'ava Shemshasa Tefillah, where in this last part of the first paragraph of Sif Daled, the Rebbe is going to go on to explain why is it that specifically the Ava of Ru'us Daliba brings a Yid to fulfilling the mitzvahs mitech bittul. Why specifically Ru'us Liba? Why specifically the Ava Atzmis? Why can't other levels in Ava bring a Yid to fulfilling the mitzvahs mitech bittul? So before we read this part inside, let's just discuss outside briefly what the Rebbe is going to say in these last lines of the first paragraph of Sif Dalet. We discussed in the previous Shiurim, that in general there's two levels of Ava. There's Ava Shal Pi Tam V'das, and there's Ava Shal L'mayla Tam V'das. There's an Ava that's based off his zbeininus, off logic, off a person's intellect, and then there is a natural Ava that a Yid has to the Eibishter. However, it's also Mavur, it's explained in Chassidus, that in the Ava Shal Pi Tam V'das, there are also many dargas. There are many levels of Ava that are based off a person's intellect. In general, there are two dargas of Ava that are based off a person's intellect. The most basic Ava Shal Pi Tam V'das, the most basic level of a Ava which is based off logic, is when a person is misbeinin in the gadlus of the Eibishter through looking at the world. How could a person contemplate? How could a person come to realize and to know about the greatness of the Eibishter? The Rambam tells us that if a person looks at the world, he sees Marabu Masecha, Magadlu Masecha, he sees how great the world is, how many Nevroim there are, how many amazing creations there are that the Eibishter created. That brings a person to understanding the greatness of the Eibishter. If a person can understand the greatness of the world, and a person knows that the Eibishter created the world, so automatically a Yid could come to understanding the greatness of the Eibishter. That's the most basic level of Ava, Shal Pi Tam V'das. That a person understands how great the Eibishter is based off his understanding of how great the world is. However, that's a basic level of Ava Shal Pi Tam V'das. It's Mavur Chassidus that there's a greater level of Ava Shal Pi Tam V'das. And that is that a person is misbeinin, a person contemplates and realizes that the Eibishter is beyond anything I can understand, any greatness that I see here in Ilm Hazeh. A person is misbeinin and he realizes how big and how great, how awesome this world is, how many Nevroim there are, etc., etc. But then a person comes to the realization that the Eibishter is what we call mufla, or the hafla in Seif. A person comes to realize that the Eibishter is beyond all of the anything I could comprehend, any greatness I could see in Ilm Hazeh, anything my logic is able to understand, the Eibishter is even beyond that. In other words, the first Ava is what we call the person is an Ava to the Giluyim of the Eibishter. A person sees the world, the creation of the world, is an expression of the Eibishter, and that's why a person loves the Eibishter. The person who's loving the Eibishter, his love is not so connected with the essence of the Eibishter. What's he loving? He understands the godless of the Eibishter the way he can comprehend the greatness of the Eibishter. So he's loving the Giluyim of the Eibishter. That's the first Yid. In the first level of Ava, where a person sees the greatness of the Eibishter through the levels of the Kus that he can understand, that, so to speak, the greatness of the Eibishter that he sees within the creation of the world. So he's loving the Eibishter's expressions, the Giluyim of the Eibishter. However, the Yid in the second level of Ava, the Yid that realizes that the Eibishter is beyond anything a Yid can comprehend, anything intellect, anything our Seichel can comprehend. So this Yid, his Ava is connected with the essence of the Eibishter. He realizes that everything that he understands is only Giluyim, but the Eibishter is beyond all of his Giluyim. The essence of the Eibishter is greater than any greatness my Seichel can comprehend. So this Yid in the second level of Ava, which you call Ava Rabbah, his desire is to be connected with the essence of the Eibishter. He realizes that anything he can understand, anything that his Seichel can comprehend, is only the Giluyim of the Eibishter, but the essence of the Eibishter is beyond that. And therefore his Ava is directed to the essence of the Eibishter. These are the two basic levels, two general levels of Ava Shal Pi Tam V'das. Now, this second level of Ava Rabbah sounds very similar to Ru'us Liba. We've explained in the previous Shiurim that the Maila of Ru'us Liba is that a Yid has a natural and inherent Ava Shal L'mayla Tam V'das, and therefore his Ava is directed towards the essence of the Eibishter. He doesn't love, his Ava is not connected with the Giluyim of the Eibishter. His Ava is not based off the greatness of the Eibishter, but he loves the essence of the Eibishter. So the Ava Rabba Shal Pitam Vadas seems very similar to the Re'us of the Liba. But the truth is, they're very, very different. What differentiates? What's the difference between the Ava Re'us the Liba and the Ava Rabba that's based off Seichel? So, to help us understand this, let's go back to the mashal of two friends that love each other al pitam v'das. When you have two people that love each other al pitam v'das, at the end of the day, first of all, their relationship is based off Seichel. But what does that mean? What does that tell us? If you have Reuven and Shimon, and Reuven loves Shimon because of the positive virtues or the good qualities that he sees in Shimon, and Shimon loves Reuven for the same reason, because he sees certain positive qualities in Reuven. So that means to say that each one is in this relationship because they see something that they can understand, a certain greatness, a certain maila in their friend. In other words, each one is really looking to get something out of this relationship. Each one has what we call a mavukish. Why is Reuven in a friendship with Shimon? Why is Shimon in a friendship with Reuven? Because they love each other, true. But what do they love? Something al pi seichel, something they can comprehend, they can understand. In other words, each one sees something that he can get, something that is valuable in his friend. And that's why he's in this relationship. That's what Ava Shal Pitam V'das means. Not only is it based off intellect, but it means that each one is looking to get something out of this relationship. Each one has an interest as to why he's in this relationship. He sees something positive, he sees something good in his friend, and that's what he wants to get for himself. He appreciates being together. Reuven appreciates Shimon because of what he's getting, so to speak, from the good qualities and virtues of Shimon. And al derech zeh, Shimon's relationship with Reuven. So too can be said about every darga of Ava Shel Pitam V'das. Even the Ava Rabba. Whenever a Yid loves the Eibishter, based off a Seichel, what that means to say is that a Yid understands how great the Eibishter is. And that's why he wants to be connected to Hashem. He loves the Eibishter. He wants to be connected to the Eibishter because he understands the greatness of the Eibishter. In other words, he appreciates and sees a value, how valuable the Eibishter is. The Eibishter is the greatest thing out there. That's why he's connected to him. So in other words, he's in this relationship. He has a love to the Eibishter. And what the love really means is that he wants to get something from the Eibishter. He wants to be connected to this Eibishter that is so great. So at the end of the day, a Yid that loves the Eibishter Pi Ava has his own interests or what he wants to get, so to speak, out of this relationship. Therefore, even the Ava Rabba, which is an Ava that a Yid loves the Eibishter, he loves the essence of the Eibishter, the Yid realizes, al pi seichel, that all of the Giluyim don't truly express the greatness of the Eibishter. And the true greatness of the Eibishter is found in his essence. Even such a Yid that wants to be connected with Atzmos, at the end of the day, why does he want to be connected to Atzmos? Because he understands that the greatest thing is Atzmos. The true godless of the Eibishter is not found in his Giluyim, but the true godless of the Eibishter is found in his Etzem. And that's why he wants to connect to Atzmos. Again, it's al pi seichel. And being of the Ava Rabba, even the Ava Rabba, is al pi seichel. What that tells us is that at the end of the day, this Yid loves the Eibishter. He has a mavukish. He has a desire. He has an interest, something he wants to gain out of this Ava. And therefore, this tells us about his Torah mitzvahs as well. It's mavur in Tanya, it's mavur in Chassidus, that a Yid who has Ava does Torah mitzvahs. Why? Ava means a Yid loves the Eibishter and he wants to connect to the Eibishter. So that's why he does Torah mitzvahs. He does Torah mitzvahs in order to connect to the Eibishter. What does this tell us? That a Yid that has an Ava pi seichel, and he understands how great the Eibishter is, whether he understands how great the Giluyim are, or even if he has an Ava Rabba and he understands how great Atzmos is, and that's why he's an Ava, and he does Torah mitzvahs in order to connect to this great Eibishter. This means to say that all of his fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs is in order to get something out of his Torah mitzvahs, so to speak. To get what? To get a connection, to get Gilui Likus. Why does this Yid, who has Aval Piseichel, why does he fulfill Torah mitzvahs? Being that he loves the Eibishter so much, and he sees how great the Eibishter is, and he wants to be connected to the Eibishter, so therefore he does Torah mitzvahs in order to connect to the Eibishter, in order there should be a Gilui Likus involved. That he should have a Gilui Likus, whether it's a Gilui of Giluyim, or whether it's a Gilui of Atzmos. The tzad hashav, the common denominator between both these avos are that a yid that's going to do Torah mitzvahs based off, a yid that's going to do Torah mitzvahs as a result of this ava, at the end of the day, he has a self, he has his own interests in why he's doing Torah mitzvahs. He's doing Torah mitzvahs to gain something out of it. He has a mavukish. That's what I was going to go on to explain, that whenever a yid has an av piseichel, at the end of the day, his fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs is not mitech bittul. He's not doing the mitzvahs because that's the ratzon of the Eibishter. He's doing the mitzvahs in order to have a connection with the Eibishter. He's doing the mitzvahs in order for him to gain. Being that he understands how great the Eibishter is, so therefore he wants to get something from he wants to connect to the Eibishter. So he does Torah mitzvahs with a mavukish, for him to gain something out of it. To gain the connection, to gain the gilui likus that he'll have through doing Torah mitzvahs. However, when a yid has Ru'us Deliba, what does Ru'us Deliba mean? Ru'us Deliba means, Av Atzmis means that a yid loves the Eibishter not al pitamadas. He doesn't love the Eibishter because he understands how great he is. Just like a father and a son. A child loves the father, not because the father's great, just because he's his father. Why does a child want to be connected to the father? Because the child will gain something out of the connection. He's going to get something out of the connection. He's looking to get something out of the relationship. No. A child just loves the father because he inherently loves the father. The child wants to be connected because that's his natural desire. The child's not looking to get something out of the relationship. There's no mavukish. So too, when a yid loves the Eibishter mitzad his ava atzmis, not al piseichel. The yid loves the Eibishter just because he feels the Eibishter is his father. So then, such a yid that loves the Eibishter without any mavukish, he has no interest, he's not looking to gain something out of this relationship. So when he does Torah mitzvahs, when the Eibishter has a ratzon and a yid fulfills the mitzvah, why is he doing the mitzvah? Not because he's looking to get something out of fulfilling the mitzvah. He's doing the mitzvah because that's the ratzon of the Eibishter. That's the beer that Rebbe is going to give as to why, specifically and only when a yid has Ru'us Deliba, that's what's going to lead him, that's what's going to ensure that his fulfillment of Torah mitzvah is going to be mitech bittul. As long as his av is opitam v'das, so the fulfillment of mitzvahs is not going to be mitech bittul. The fulfillment of mitzvahs is going to be with a mavukish. He's going to do the mitzvahs, somehow his fulfillment of mitzvahs is connected to enhancing his mitzvahs. However, when a yid has an ava rabba, when a yid has an ava atzmis, when a yid has Ru'us Deliba, he loves the Eibishter l'mayla mitam v'das. That's why he wants to be connected to the Eibishter, not to gain something out of it. So his fulfillment of mitzvahs, the reason why he's going to do what the ratzon of the Eibishter is also going to be in order to fulfill the ratzon of Hashem. Mitech bittul, not to gain something out of it. Let's see all this inside. We're like halfway towards the bottom of Sif Dalit, of the first paragraph of Sif Dalit. The word ksha'ava. Ksha'ava shebeis atfila. Hi al pi tam v'das. Ki ma mitzvah shemesha kol hayim. B'chil hamshach gil likus. Says the Rebbe, whenever a person has an av al pi tam v'das, so then his fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs is in order that there should be, that this person should experience a gil likus. Says the Rebbe, and this rule the Rebbe just said. The Rebbe just said that when a yid is an av al pi tam v'das, his fulfillment of mitzvahs is in order to experience a gilikus. Says the Rebbe, this rule applies even if a person has a very high level of ava, shal pitam v'das, ava rabba. Says the Rebbe, v'gam k'sha'ava hi yadi yizbeinus, ba'floder in Seif, shal yidei zebal ava rabba, demili b'shamayim, she'ein iretz b'chal gilim v'rak ba'atzmos, still, yesh mevukish b'kiyam ha'mitzvah shaloi, she'b'meshal kol hayim, l'hamshal gili atzmos in Seif. Says the Rebbe, even a yid that has an ava, a yid that was misbeinin in the flaw, in the awesomeness, in the greatness of the Eibishter. A yid that was misbeinin how the Eibishter is beyond anything that he could understand. And this brings him to what we call Ava Rabba of Mili Bashamayim. Mili Bashamayim means that a yid feels that he doesn't want any Giluyim. He doesn't want to connect. He doesn't want to be connected with the expressions of the Eibishter. He wants to be connected with Atzmos, with the essence of the Eibishter. Why? Because the yid understands that the Gadlus Amiti, the true greatness of the Eibishter, can only be found in Atzmos. Says the Rebbe, even a yid that has such a level of Ava Rabba, still, when he fulfills the mitzvahs, he has a mavukish. He has desire. He has an interest, what he wants to gain from the fulfillment of mitzvahs. And what is that? What is he looking to gain? He wants to experience a gili of Atzmos or Seif. A yid that has a regular Ava, his mavukish is, he wants a gili likus bechlal. He wants to connect with the Eibishter. A yid that has Ava Rabba, he also wants to connect with the Eibishter. When he does Torah mitzvahs, he's also looking to gain. What's he looking to gain? He's looking to gain a connection with Atzmos. Says the Rebbe, the key ma mitzvah shel achris eidus ava atzmis Ru'us Deliba, who believes shu mavukish gamle mavukish tam shachas gili atzmis Seif v'rak l'kayim mitzvah his bar b'derech kabbalah. Says the Rebbe, however, a yid that fulfills the mitzvahs as a result as an outcome of his Ru'us Deliba, his Ava Atzmis, such Yid fulfills the mitzvahs without any mevokish. He's not doing the mitzvahs in order to gain something. He's not searching to get something out of fulfillment of mitzvahs. And he's not even looking for there to be a Gili of Atzmus. He's not looking to connect to Atzmus because he sees some sort of a greatness in Atzmus. A Yid that has Ru'us Deliba, his desire is just to connect to the Eibishter without any self-interest. So when he fulfills the mitzvahs, why does he do the mitzvahs? Not because he's looking to gain, but because he's looking to do the Ratzon of the Eibishter. Now says the Rebbe, now the Rebbe adds a line that we'll understand much better when we learn the next paragraph of Seif Daled. But the Rebbe says that the truth is that not only is Ru'us Deliba, till now we're saying that when you're going to compare the Ava Atzmis of Ru'us Deliba to the other levels of Ava Shal Pi Seichel, it'll come out that the Ava Shal Pi Seichel is really a person is looking, his interest is his own Metzias, so to speak. It's obviously an Eidla Eifin, but a Yid that has Ava Shal Pi Tam Vadas, at the end of the day, he's looking to enhance his Metzias. And a Yid that has Ru'us Deliba, his Ava is, so to speak, with a bittul. He's not looking for himself. He just wants the Eibishter. He's not looking to gain something. He's not looking to get something out of it. Says the Rebbe, so although when you compare the Ava of Ru'us Deliba to the Ava of Seichel, the Ava of Ru'us Deliba is a sense of bittul, but the truth is that when the Ru'us Deliba leads a Yid to fulfilling the mitzvahs, mitei Kabbalah Soil, the bittul of Kabbalah Soil is even greater than the bittul of Ru'us Deliba. This is something we'll come to having a much better understanding of in the next paragraph of Seif Daled. And ends off the Rebbe, so specifically, when a Yid fulfills mitzvahs, in a Eifin of bittul, which how do you come to bittul? How do you come to Kabbalah Soul? Through Ru'us Deliba. That's how you have Amshach's Atzmas. So it comes out from this paragraph that we have 4 dargas. You have Ava Shal Pi Tam Vadas, you have Ru'us Deliba, Kabbalah Soul, and the fulfillment of mitzvahs. The Ava Shal Pi Tam Vadas is literally an Ava that we would call Metzias. A person has Ava Shal Pi Tam Vadas, he's not bottled to the Eibishter. He wants the Eibishter, but he's not called bottled to the Eibishter. His whole connection to the Eibishter is based off his Metzias. He has a Mavukish. He's looking to get something from the Eibishter. He's looking to get something from the relationship. Ru'us Deliba, simply, is an Ava Shebebchinas Bittul. It's an Ava that a person wants the Eibishter. He's not looking to get something out of himself. He just wants the Eibishter. He's not looking to get something out of it. Then there's Kabbalah Soul. Kabbalah Soul means that a person fulfills the mitzvah of the Eibishter just because they're Hashem's Ratzon. And the Rebbe threw it over here at the end of the paragraph, that the truth is that a Yid that fulfills the Ratzon of the Eibishter, mitei Kabbalah Soul, is more batal than a Yid that's experiencing Ru'us Deliba. Even though Ru'us Deliba, relative to the Ava Shal Pi Tam Vadas, is also bittul, a Yid that has Ru'us Deliba, relative to a Yid that has Ava Shal Pi Tam Vadas, the Yid that has Ru'us Deliba is more batal. Imkozah, says the Rebbe, when a Yid fulfills the Ratzon of the Eibishter, just because it's Hashem's Ratzon, that's a greater bittul than the bittul of Ru'us Deliba. And then there's the fulfillment of mitzvahs. And specifically, through the fulfillment of mitzvahs, how a Yid is mamshech atzmas. So in the next paragraph of Daled, the Rebbe is going to go on to explain more in depth these concepts. The Rebbe is going to explain why is it that only the fulfillment of mitzvahs can connect the Yid, can be mamshech atzmas. And the Rebbe is also going to go on to explain what does this mean that the bittul of Kabbalah Soul is a greater bittul than the bittul of Ru'us Deliba? Even though we explained that Ru'us Deliba is considered a level of bittul relative to the Ava Shal Pi Tam Vadas. So what does it mean? Again, the Rebbe is going to explain what does it mean that Kabbalah Soul is a greater bittul than the bittul of Ru'us Deliba, and why is it that you can only be Tevis Atzmos through the fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs? Let's read a big chunk of the next paragraph inside, and then we'll do some explaining. Says the Rebbe, V'yesh loymar, Datam lo zeh shegam al yidei Ru'us Deliba, ein tefsim ba'atzmos mamish, ubechdei litveis ba'atzmos, udafka al yidei kiyum hamitzvahs shel achei Ru'us Deliba hu, dekevon sha'atzmos hu muvdol mikol inyin, I efsher litveis eisei al yidei shum inyin, ela al yidei haratzon sheloi da atzmos. V'kevon shegam ava atzmish mitzat etzem nesham Ru'us Deliba, hi ava v'ratzin da adam ein nitvas b'zeh atzmos mamish. Says the Rebbe, what is the true reason? What is the explanation as to why Ru'us Deliba cannot be Teifis Atzmos? And the only way How we could be Tefes Atzmos is specifically through the fulfillment of mitzvah. Says the Rebbe, what's the reason? Because we know that Atzmos is muvdal mikol inyan. Atzmos is absolutely removed and absolutely detached from anything that exists in our world, anything that exists in the entire Seder Shtalshlus. He's muvdal, he's removed from kol inyan, from any concept. And therefore, being that he's absolutely removed from everything, it's impossible for a Yid or for anyone to come in contact with Atzmos. Nobody has the right tools, nobody has the ability to grasp Atzmos because he's removed from everything, as we'll explain soon what this means. So naturally, it should be impossible to be Tefes Atzmos. The only way a person could be Tefes Atzmos is if he uses the tools that the Eibishter gave us to grasp him. And that is the Ratzon Shalai, his Ratzon, his mitzvahs. But again, if you're not using his tools, the tools that he gave us, if you're going to try to use your mitzvahs, you're not going to be able to grasp Atzmos. So says the Rebbe, Ru'usa Daliba, at the end of the day, is also an expression of the mitzvahs of the person. It's the lashon that we just read, it's the Ava and the Ratzon of the Adam. And being that Ru'usa Daliba being that the Avodah of Ru'usa Daliba means that a person is using his mitzvahs to connect to the Eibishter, therefore, even through the Ava Ru'usa Daliba, which is greater than the Ava Shal Pitam Vadas, and there's more bittul in the Ava Ru'usa Daliba, Im Kol Zeh, being that the person is using his mitzvahs, so he's not going to be able to come close to Atzmos. He's not going to be able to come in contact with Atzmos. Because again, the only way a person can come in contact with Atzmos is if he uses the tools that Atzmos gave him to connect with him, to connect with Atzmos. And that is Ratzon Shalai, the Eibishter's own Ratzon. Now that we just introduced that Ru'usa Daliba, although it's a Ava Shebabchinas Bittul, relative to the Ava Shal Pitam Vadas, but we just introduced right over here in the Maimer, that Ru'usa Daliba is still somewhat the mitzvah of a person, because at the end of the day, Ru'usa Daliba is the Ratzon, it's the desire and the love of the person. So says the Rebbe, V'zeu ha'yisrin she'ba'avodah the Kabbalas legabi Ru'usa Daliba, the Ru'usa Daliba Ratzon ha'adam. וגם כשרצון שלו הוא בביטול, שאין רצון לעצמי כלל וכל רצונו, שיעור שלום רצון הקדוש ברוך הוא, מכל מוקים גם רצון זהו רצון של האדם מציאס. ועבודה דקבלת אל שמקבל וקיים ציווי השם, גם כשהציווי הוא כנגד רצונו בדוגמת עבד, שהעבד הוא מוכרח לקיים רצון האדם, הוא לא מצד המציאס רצון שלו, אלא מצד אל מלכות שמיים המוטל עליו. Says the Rebbe, now we can understand why Kabbalas Ol is a greater level of bittul, why true bittul can only be found in Kabbalas Ol and not in Ru'usa Daliba. Says Rebbe, because at the end of the day, Ru'usa Daliba is a person expressing his ratzon, his desire. And ratzon is an expression of the mitzvahs of the person. So says the Rebbe, even if a person has a ratzon, which is absolute, would in some places in Chassidus would be called an absolute bittul. The ratzon is b'bchinas bittul. What does that mean? What's a ratzon? That's b'bchinas bittul. Let's say a person has a desire, his whole ratzon is to be mashal the ratzon of the Eibishter. He's not desiring anything for himself. You can have a yid that all he desires is to be mashlim, his ratzon is that the ratzon, the kavan of the Eibishter should be fulfilled. Could you imagine such a yid is holding on what we call, well, naturally in many places in Chassidus we would say, this yid is absolutely batal to the Eibishter. His only ratzon, his only desire is that Hashem's ratzon should be fulfilled. Says the Rebbe, at the end of the day, he has a ratzon. He has a desire. And the very fact that he has desire, that itself is an expression of his mitzvahs. Put aside what his desire is about. Some people have a ratzon to fulfill their own taivas. That's mamish, a person that's thinking only about his mitzvahs. And this yid, his ratzon is to fulfill Hashem's ratzon. So if you're looking at what his ratzon's about, what he is desiring, so we would say the yid that's desiring to fulfill the ratzon of Hashem, he's batal to the Eibishter. The yid that's his desires are his own taivas, he wants to fulfill his own desires. So he's obviously, that such a yid, such a person, that his ratzon is all about fulfilling his own desires, is not batal to the Eibishter. A yid that he's desiring to fulfill Hashem's ratzon, that's a ratzon shebabchinas bittul. But says the Rebbe, that's when you're looking at what they're desiring. But put that aside. Put aside what they're desiring. The very fact that this yid is having a ratzon, that itself is an expression of his mitzvahs. So a yid, even if his whole ratzon is just to fulfill Hashem's ratzon, the very fact that he's wanting something, that itself is an expression of his mitzvahs. Where can you find true bittul? Specifically in Kabbalas Ol. Kabbalas Ol means a yid is ready to do Hashem's ratzon, even if the yid does not want to do Hashem's ratzon. A Yid who's Mekabel Mal Shemayim means that why is he doing what Hashem wants? He's not doing what Hashem wants because that's what the Yid wants. He's doing what Hashem wants because he's like an Eved. He's like a servant to his master. Why does a servant serve his master? Because he belongs to his master. Because he has the oil, he has the yoke of his master's mutal alav. He belongs to his master. And that's why he feels the need to do the Torah mitzvahs. A Yid that feels like Hashem's Eved, a Yid that's Mekabel Malch Shemayim, doesn't do the mitzvahs because that's what he wants to do. He does the mitzvahs because he feels that that's Hashem's ratzon, and he has to do what Hashem wants. His mitzvahs is not mixed in at all in his service of the Eibishter. So true bittul, true dedication to the Eibishter can only be found in the Avodah of Kabbalah Sil. A Yid that feels that not that he's a ben to the Eibishter, but he's an Eved to the Eibishter. Says the Rebbe, but even though we're explaining the Maila of Kabbalah Sol over Ru'us Deliba, Ru'us Deliba can't be Tefus and Atzmos. We just said, why can't Ru'us Deliba be Tefus and Atzmos? Because at the end of the day, Ru'us Deliba is an Avodah that's connected with your Metzias. And your Metzias cannot grasp Atzmos. Atzmos, again, is moved only called Inyan. So your Metzias, Ru'us Deliba, is an Avodah that is connected, that expresses the Metzias of a person. So Ru'us Deliba cannot be Tefus and Atzmos. And says the Rebbe, that's the mile of Kabbalah Soil. That Kabbalah Soil is not Metzias, it's Bittul. So now a person might think, okay, so maybe the Avodah of Kabbalah Soil could be Tefus Atzmos. Maybe a Yid that's Mekabel Machshmam, a Yid that's Mevatel himself totally, a Yid that gives himself over completely to the Eibishter, a Yid that doesn't feel his own desires, his own ratzon. He just feels like Hashem's Eved. Maybe that connects a Yid to Atzmos. Says the Rebbe, El Sha'afal Pikein, Gam HaBittul Kabbalah Soil, Eini Tefus Ba'atzmos Mamish. Why? The cave on Shakolan Yanamin Bein Arechu Klach Shiv Legabe Yisbarich. Hari in Shayich she is an Indian Shal Yadi Yechelim Litzis by Yisbarich. Says Rebbe, even Kabbalah's oil can't be Tefes and Atzmos. Although we just explained that Kabbalah's oil is a greater bittul than Ru'us Deliba, but at the end of the day, no Aveda can be Tefus and Atzmos. Legabi the Eibishter, a Yid that's expressing his Metzias, or a Yid that's being Mevatel himself to the Eibishter, are all equally distant. Kula kamei kelachashiv. Legabi, the very essence of the Eibishter, nothing can bring you closer to the Eibishter. A Yid that serves Hashem with the Ru'us Deliba, in other words, he's using Hashem, utilizing his Metzias, can't be Tefus and Atzmos, can't come close to Atzmos. Your Metzias can't bring you closer to Atzmos. But says the Rebbe, the truth is, even the Avodah of Kabbalah's oil can't bring you closer to Atzmos. Even the Avodah of Bittul can't bring you closer. Because nothing makes you closer and further to Atzmos. Not expressing your Metzias, and not expressing a sense of Bittul. Nothing brings you closer. No Avodah that comes forth from you can bring you closer to Atzmos. Because everything is equally distant, everything is equally far from Atzmos. So what's the only way I could grasp Atzmos? The only option is, the only way I could come in contact with Atzmos is the fulfillment of Torah mitzvah. Says the Rebbe weiter, ubechdei litvis Atzmos, hu dafka yesh Atzmos reitza bezeh. Bezel shal de kiyam Torah mitzvahs teifsem Atzmos, ki ha mitzvahs im rotzin Atzmos. Hainu dezeh shal de Torah mitzvahs teifsem Atzmos, hu loy mitzad meilas Torah mitzvahs Atzmam, el lefishu rotzin Atzmos. Says the Rebbe, so what's the only way I could grasp Atzmos? Is if I'm fulfilling the rotzin of the Eibishter. If Atzmos, if the very essence of Hashem has a rotzin, and I'm fulfilling his rotzin, through fulfilling his rotzin, the fact that the Eibishter has a rotzin, I'm fulfilling it, Hashem made himself accessible. The very essence of the Eibishter, naturally, is totally inaccessible to anyone that exists in Olam Hazeh, or anything that exists in Tar Seder Shtalshalos. Naturally, the essence of the Eibishter is totally out of our reach. And the only way the only reason, the only possibility we have to grasp Atzmos is if Atzmos wants something, and we fulfill his rotzin. The fact that he wants something, we fulfill his rotzin, the fact that Hashem has a rotzin for Torah mitzvahs, the Eibishter was giving us the ability, he was giving us access, giving us a way how we could come in contact with Atzmos. And that's why being that Torah mitzvahs is the Ratzon of the Eibishter. So when a Yid fulfills the Ratzon of the Eibishter, he comes in contact with Atzmos. Not because there's something unique to Torah mitzvahs, not because there's an intrinsic value to Torah mitzvahs. Torah mitzvahs on their own right have no intrinsic value. Just like our Ru'us of the Liba, just like our Kabbalah Soil has no value, naturally. Naturally, our Ru'us of the Liba and our Kabbalah Soil cannot give us contact, cannot bring us close to Atzmos. So to Torah mitzvahs, naturally, on their own right, on their own merit, Torah mitzvahs cannot bring us close to Atzmos. It's only because Atzmos wants Torah mitzvahs, therefore through the fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs, we can connect, we can have a connection and come in contact with Atzmos. This is the explanation here in this Maimer of Margala Bepumei why it is that Sai Ru'us Deliba and Sai Kabbalah Soul cannot grasp Atzmos. And the only way to grasp Atzmos is through Torah mitzvahs. Let's take a few minutes to explain this idea outside. Let's take a very basic mashal from our world. We know that there are certain colors that an animal is able to see that human beings do not have the ability to see. Al derech zeh, there are certain sounds that are on a certain pitch that animals are able to hear, but a human being is not able to hear. Why is this? In order to be teifis, in order to come in contact with something outside of you, you need to own the proper kalim to be teifis, the thing outside of you. You have to have the means, you have to have kalim that have the capacity to be teifis, the things outside of you. So our eyes are kalim to be teifis, color, or anything that's visual. Our eyes have the capacity, have the ability to grasp anything that you need to see. However, our eyes have certain limitations. And therefore, there are certain colors that we're not able to see. Why can't we see them? Because we don't have the kalim that have the capacity to be teifis those colors. Al derech zeh, with hearing, we have ears, and our ears are able to hear things. That's the job, that's the function of our ears, to pick up sound waves. However, there can be certain sounds that are on a certain pitch that our ears are not able to pick up. Why can't our ears be teifis those sound waves? Because our ears do not have the capacity to be teifis those sound waves. As opposed to animals, their ears or their eyes have the capacity, have the means that it takes to be teifis those colors, those colors or those sounds. In other words, what we see from this idea is that whenever you want to be teifis something outside of you, the only way to do it is if you have kalim that are proper kalim, proper tools that have the ability that these tools are what give you access to be teifis these things outside of you. So when it comes to the Eibishter, when we're talking about Atzmos, nothing can be teifis Atzmos. What does that mean? What does it mean that nothing could be teifis Atzmos? It means that you're never going to find anything that is a proper kli to give you to put you in contact with Atzmos. Nothing in our world, nothing in the entire state of Shtalshalus can bring you in contact with Atzmos. Why is this? So back to our mashal of the human beings and animals, it's technical. Animals have the proper kalim to pick up these colors or these sounds, and the human being does not have these kalim. It's a technical thing. If Hashem would give the human being the kalim to pick up these colors and sounds, and the human being would also see the colors that animals see and hear the sounds that animals hear. However, by the Eibishter, by Atzmos, it's not technical. Like the Lashon of the Maimer, Atzmos is muvdol mikol inyan. Atzmos is removed from everything and from anything. Therefore, automatically nothing can be teifis Atzmos, because there's nothing in our world that has any similarity to Atzmos. And therefore, there's nothing in our world, there's nothing Seder Shtalshos, there's nothing that you can imagine that'll have the ability to be teifis Atzmos. There's nothing that can have the capacity to be teifis Atzmos, because there's nothing that's be'erech. There's nothing that exists in a similar manner to Atzmos. What does it mean to have a proper kli to be teifis something? The proper kli means that this thing has the capacity within itself. This thing has some sort of similarity, something that can bring you in contact with the thing that you want to be teifis. That's what it means to have a proper kli. When we're talking about Atzmos, being that Atzmos is muvdol mikol inyan, so automatically there's nothing that you can possess that will bring you closer, that will bring you in contact, give you the ability to be teifis Atzmos. Therefore, that's the beer that Rebbe is giving why Ru'us Deliba cannot be teifis Atzmos. Ru'us Deliba, says the Rebbe, at the end of the day, is the Ratzin and the Metzias of the person. Ru'us Deliba, although we've explained at length, and we mentioned it so many times in the Shiur, that Ru'us Deliba is considered an Ava Shebabchinas Bittul, relative to the Ava Shal Pitam V'das. But at the end of the day, Ru'us the Liba is the Ratzon of the person. The person has a Ratzon to connect to the Eibishter. Or the person has a Ratzon to fulfill Hashem's Ratzon. So, and Ratzon is an expression of the Metzias of the person. He's expressing, he has a desire, he has a will. So it could be that you're talking about a Yid that his whole Ratzon is to fulfill Hashem's Ratzon. Or he has an Ava Atzmis to connect to the Eibishter, not because of his own interest, he just has this Ava Atzmis, this inherent love, natural inherent love to connect to the Eibishter. But at the end of the day, it's the Ratzon of the person, the Metzias of the person. And you can't grasp Atzmos using your Metzias. Now, says the Rebbe, here's the Rebbe adds a whole other step, a whole new depth to this idea. Not only can't you be Tefes Atzmos with Ru'us Deliba, because Ru'us Deliba has the Chesaron. The issue of Ru'us Deliba is that it's your Metzias, you're utilizing your Metzias. And your Metzias, like we were just saying, will never be a Kli, will never have the ability to be Tefes Atzmos through using your Metzias. Says the Rebbe, what about Kabbalah Sol? Kabbalah Sol means a person's bottle to the Eibishter. Why is Kabbalah Sol a greater bittul than Ru'us Deliba? Because Ru'us Deliba, you're using your Ratzon. You're fulfilling the mitzvahs because you have a Ratzon to fulfill Hashem's Ratzon. Kabbalah Sol means I'm fulfilling the Ratzon of the Eibishter because I'm his Eved, because I belong to him. Even if I didn't have a Ratzon, even if I wasn't interested to fulfill the mitzvahs, I would still do it. Why? Because I'm muchach, I'm forced to. I belong to him, I belong to Hashem. So in Kabbalah Sol, a person is not expressing his Metzias at all. He's actually batel. He's the Eibishter's Eved. Says the Rebbe, for the same price, being that Atzmos, there's nothing that has any erech to Atzmos. Nothing has any value to Gabi Atzmos. There's nothing closer or further from Atzmos. So therefore, bittul is not going to bring you closer to Atzmos either. Comes out, the Rebbe is teaching us the idea of the Maimer, of this Seif, which I'm sure is going to be elaborated in the Iyun Shiurim, is that your Metzias can't be Tefes Atzmos, and for the same price, your bittul can't be Tefes Atzmos either. Nothing that's coming from the person, not the Metzias of the person, but anything that is connected with our Aveda cannot bring us in contact with Atzmos. Our Metzias cannot make us in contact with Atzmos, and our bittul won't bring us any closer to Atzmos. So what could bring us closer to Atzmos? Only doing his Ratzon. The Eibishter made himself accessible. Naturally, the Eibishter is unaccessible. He's unaccessible through our Metzias, and he's unaccessible even when we use our bittul. Both Avedas don't bring us closer. The Eibishter, being that he has a Ratzon for mitzvahs, made himself accessible. And when a Yid fulfills Torah mitzvahs, that's how he connects himself, that's how he comes in contact with the very essence of the Eibishter. But now, based on all this, a person can ask a very simple question. Okay, it comes out that Ru'us Deliba is not going to bring us closer to Hashem, to Atzmos, that is, because it's a Metzias. Kabbalah Sol is not going to bring us closer, even though Kabbalah Sol is an Aveda bittul, but the Eibishter is removed from bittul as well. The only thing that could bring us close to the Eibishter, to Atzmos, is the fulfillment of their mitzvahs. So what do I need bittul for? What do I need Ru'us Deliba for? We were just explaining before, and the Rebbe was explaining in the Maimer, that why do I need Ru'us Deliba? Because Ru'us Deliba brings me to Kabbalah Sol. The Av of Ru'us Deliba will bring me to Kabbalah Sol, like we explained previously. And so what? Why do I need that? Why do I need Ru'us Deliba to bring me to Kabbalah Sol if I'm not even Tefes Atzmos through Kabbalah Sol? The only way I'm Tefes Atzmos is through the fulfillment of mitzvahs. So what do I need this Ru'us Deliba for? What do I need the Kabbalah Sol for? Just do the mitzvahs, whether you're doing them as to fulfill Hashem's Ratzon, whether you're doing them because you want to do them, it doesn't matter, it doesn't make a difference. For all we care, you could fulfill Torah mitzvahs even with an Avashal Pitam V'das. And at the end of the day, because you're doing Hashem's Ratzon, you're fulfilling the Ratzon of Atzmos, so you're going to be Tefes Atzmos. You're going to have a connection with the very essence of the Eibishter. What does it matter what your motive is? Who cares if your motive is Avashal Pitam V'das, if your motive is Ru'us Deliba, if your motive is Kabbalah Sol? At the end of the day, you're fulfilling the Ratzon of Hashem, the Ratzon of Atzmos, you're being Tefes Atzmos. So that's what I was going to come to explain the rest of this paragraph, Seif Daled. And the Nukud that Rebbe wants to explain is that there's two ideas. There's what we call Hamshachas Atzmos, and there is that the Hamshacha should be Begilui. Meaning to say, very briefly, I'm sure this idea, again, it's going to be discussed in the Iyun Shiurim, but very briefly, the idea, the Nukud over here is that yes, whenever you fulfill a mitzvah, you're being Tefes Atzmos. It doesn't matter if it's Lishma or Shalei Lishma. It doesn't matter what your motive is, what your incentive is. When you fulfill a mitzvah, you're being Tefes Atzmos. However, if you do the mitzvah, shalei lishma, or you do the mitzvah, let's say, not shalei lishma, but you do it with an avos bitam v'das. In other words, you're fulfilling the mitzvah because you want to have, you have a certain interest. You want to gain something from doing the mitzvah. You want to get gilui likos. You're doing the mitzvah for yourself. So although you're being tefus and atzmos, but that's not something that's felt. It's not something that's begoli. You don't have a conscious connection to atzmos. In your world, the reason why you're doing the mitzvah is to get a certain gilui. You're not experiencing in your life the connection with atzmos, with the very essence of the Eibishter. But when a yid does a mitzvah, mitech kabbalah soil, when a yid does a mitzvah because of the Ratzon of Hashem, so then the yid is experiencing that he's connecting, when he does the mitzvah, he's connecting with the Ratzon of Hashem, which the Ratzon of Hashem is how you connect with atzmos. So there's two ideas that are going on over here. One idea is that on the one hand, you can only be tefes atzmos through the fulfillment of mitzvahs. And that's why the most important thing is the fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs. Just doing the mitzvah. That's your connection to atzmos. That's your, so to speak, your gateway. That's what gives you access to atzmos, doing the ratzon. But then the question is, are you going to be conscious about it? Are you going to feel the connection with atzmos? Is the connection with atzmos going to be something that's present in your life? And for that you need Re'us Daliba and Kabbalah Soul. For that, you need to fulfill the mitzvah tech bittul. You need to do the mitzvah because it's the Ratzon of Hashem. When a yid does the mitzvah because it's the Ratzon of Hashem, that's when he feels that he's connecting with atzmos. He feels he's connecting with the Ratzon of the Eibishter. And how do you come to Kabbalah Soul? You come to Kabbalah Soul, like we said before in the first paragraph of Seif Daled. What brings you to Kabbalah Soul is the Ava Ros Daliba. Let's see all this inside, towards the bottom of the second paragraph of Seif Daled. Says the Rebbe, Zeu shekiyam mitzvahs tzarchlis bebitul, af shelagabi atzmos, bitul u'metzias im b'shavim mamish, hu, b'chtei shachas ha'atzmos shelekiyam mitzvahs tia begilui. Says the Rebbe, based on everything we just explained, that Re'us Daliba and Kabbalah Soul, bitul and metzias, are all equally distant from the Eibishter. So what do we need Kabbalah Soul for? Just do the mitzvahs. Who cares what your motive is? Says the Rebbe, no, it's very important. You're right, the hamshachas ha'atzmos comes from what? Fulfilling the mitzvahs. But the hamshacha should be begilui. That should be revealed and apparent. For that, we need to do the mitzvahs with take Kabbalah Soul. Why is this? What's the beer? Says the Rebbe, Dikshasi yasa mitzvah shel adam. Ibaif and shenirgash es hamitzir sheloi, shehu ha-mekayim es ha-mitzvah, hergish ha-mitzias, hu k'mei seiser legilui ha'atzmos. Let's read it a little weiter. V'kei when shekshad mekayim es ha-mitzvah tzad ratzon sheloi. Gam ksharatun shlehu lahashlam ratz kadosh baruch hu negashes mitziyusei lachein b'chtei sham shachs ha'atzma shal dekiyam mitzvah tia begilui hu ha'yedei shekiyam mitzvah ubder kabbalah sol lo mitzad ratun shloi el mitzad el malchus shemayim amot Allah. Says Rebbe, why is it that when a person fulfills the mitzvahs, not mitech kabbalah sol, not with a bittul, the hamshach is not begilui? Says Rebbe, if a yid is not fulfilling the mitzvah mitech kabbalah sol, that means, what does that mean? It means he's fulfilling the mitzvah because of his mitzias. What's his motive? What's pushing him to fulfill the mitzvah? His mitzias. So a yid that fulfills the mitzvah not mitech kabbalah sol is feeling his mitzias. And your mitzias is a stira to feeling the connection with atzmos. So therefore, says the Rebbe, if a yid fulfills the mitzvah, not only if a yid fulfills the mitzvah because with the avash of tam v'das, even if a yid fulfills the mitzvah because his entire ratzon is to fulfill Hashem's ratzon. At the end of the day, why is this yid fulfilling the mitzvah? Because he has a ratzon to fulfill the ratzon of the Eibishter. So in other words, this yid, a yid that's fulfilling the mitzvahs, because he has a desire to fulfill Hashem's ratzon, is living with his mitzias. He's thinking and he's focused on his mitzias. And his mitzias is a stira to the experience that the hamshachas ha'atzma should be begilui. And that's why yid has to make sure not to fulfill the mitzvahs, because he has a ratzon to fulfill Hashem's ratzon, but rather he has to make sure to fulfill the mitzvahs because of Kabbalah Sol, mitech Kabbalah Sol, mitech bittul. And when a yid fulfills the mitzvah mitech bittul, that's when the hamshachas ha'atzmos, that's when the connection to atzmos, the very essence of the Eibishter, will be revealed in this yid's life. With this we conclude the Rebbe's beer on the Maimar Azayar of Leis Machshava Tisa Bach Klal Aval Nitras Iyah Brus Liba. According to the Rebbe's beer, what comes out? What's the Zayar telling us? Machshava Seichel cannot grasp atzmos. It's not going to bring you closer to the essence of the Eibishter. But the truth is, not only can intellect, not only can Avash Alpitam Vadas not bring you closer, not bring you in contact with the essence of the Eibishter, but the truth is that Re'us Daliba also, and Kabbalah Soil as well, cannot connect you with atzmos. The only thing that could connect you with atzmos is fulfilling his ratzon. utilizing the tools that he gave us to come in contact with him. That's the only thing that can bring you close, that can bring you in contact with Atzmas. So what's the Zayar saying? Nitvas iu brus deliba. What's the proper way to be tefas Atzmas? The proper way of tefas Atzmas is not only through doing the mitzvah. The mitzvah is what connects you. Yes, the hamshachas Atzmas comes through fulfilling the mitzvah. But what's the ultimate tfisa? How can you grasp Atzmos? How can you have a proper and complete connection with Atzmos that there shouldn't only be Amshacha, but Amshacha should be begilui, the connection to Atzmos should be something that's revealed and apparent in your life. That is through fulfilling the mitzvah of Kabbalah Sil. And how do you come to Kabbalah Sil? Through Uz Deliba. So that's what the Zayar is saying, Nitvas iu Uz Deliba. How are you properly tefas him? Through Ru'us Deliba, being the Akdama to your fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs. That is how the Rebbe explains this Maimer Zayar based off the diuk in the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimer. Now we have to see how all of this ties back to the whole sugya that we started with of Tachlis Chachma Tshuva Ma'asim Tevim. The Gemara says that the essence of Torah is Tshuva Ma'asim Tevim, and we're trying to understand what that means. This whole Maimer Zayar was brought in the Frierdiker Maimer in order to explain what it means that Tachlis Chachma Tshuva Ma'asim Tevim. What does it mean? The essence of Torah is that it should be accompanied with Tshuva Ma'asim Tevim. That was the question of the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimer. The Frierdiker Rebbe brought in this whole Maimer Zayar in order to explain this question. So first, the Rebbe here in Tzavdad explains at length and in depth the ultimate pshat in this Zayar. What does it mean? Leis machshava tuisa b'chlal avol nitvas iu b'rus liba. Once we explain that in Tzavdad, we could try to go weiter to explain and connect this Maimer Zayar to our question that we had in the beginning of the Maimer, which the Rebbe will do in the next Seif. Let's just take 2 minutes to start the beginning of Seif. והנה ידוע, דשני העניין דבן ועבד הם בדרך כלל בלימוד התורה וקיום המצוות. In Sif Dalid, we really discussed 2 types of Avedis. There's the Aveda of Ru'us Deliba. Ru'us Deliba means that a Yid is an Ava Atzvus to the Eibishter. Why? Because we're Banim Amok and we feel like the Eibishter's children. So one Aveda is the Aveda of Ben. That's one Aveda we spoke about in Sif Dalid. Ru'us Deliba, the Ava of Ru'us Deliba is very much connected with, or that is the idea of being Banim Amakim. It's expressing the fact that we're the Eibishter's children. So it symbolizes, Ru'us Deliba symbolizes that Yidden have a relationship to the Eibishter that's like the relationship a father has to his son, or a son has to his father. Another way that we spoke about is Kabbalah Sil, fulfilling the Ratzon of the Eibishter because you're his Eved. These are 2 Avedis, 2 attitudes, 2 relationships that we addressed and spoke about in Sif Dalet. So says the Rebbe, it's Mevur and Chassidus that the Aved of Ben, feeling like the Eibishter's child, and the Aved of Eved, feeling like the Eibishter's servant, is connected, it's exemplified, you could say, in 2 types of Avedis, the Aveda of learning Teilim, the Torah, and the Aveda of fulfilling mitzvahs. Now, what's the connection between Ben and Eved to Torah, Limud Torah, and Kiyam HaMitzvahs? So says the Rebbe, Ula yeshlei ma'abir bazeh, ta'chiluk bin ben la'evedu, ta'evedu batel la'adain, v'inyin ben, hu shemitziyusay, hu ha'av. Says the Rebbe, what's the basic difference between a ben and an eved? A eved is that you're batel. You're putting your mitzias on the side. You're negating your mitzias. And you're giving yourself over to the adin. It's all about the adin. It's all about the master. It's not about you. A ben is, what's all a ben? A ben's connection to his father is the exact opposite. A ben doesn't put his mitzias on the side. Rather, the way a child connects to his father is that the mitzias of the child is all about and is in sync with the mitzias of his father. So they're 2 opposite Avedis. That's what's Mavor Chassidus. That a Eved is bottled to the Adin, putting his mitzias on the side, and a Ben, his mitzias is the mitzias of the father. Says Rebbe, "Kim Mavor b'Hamshach Tavish Samach Vav, the Mashi Ratzna Av, who Gam Ratzna Ben, who Kamosh Mechayev Seichel Av, Kim Mechayev Seichel Ben." Where do we see it? The Rebbe Shab explains in Samach Vav. What's an example? Where do we see that the mitzias of the child is in sync and aligned with the mitzias of the father? That whatever is the ratzon of the father is going to be the ratzon of the child. And whatever the father's seichel is mechayev, whatever the ideas that make sense to the father, the child agrees upon. Why is this? Like we explained in the introduction share, being that the mitzias of the child comes from the father, so therefore the mitzias, the personality and the desires of the child will usually be in sync and aligned with the mitzias of the father. So says the Rebbe, Vinyanim Eila Ben ve'Eved Shebchol Echem Yisrael Mizgal and Eilim Atev Ki HaMitzvahs. So now that we're going to go on to explain that these 2 ideas of Ben and Eved, Eved means that you're bottle to the master, and a ben means that you're not batal, you have a metzias, but your metzias is in sync and aligned with the metzias of the father. These two relationships are exemplified in the Avodah of Torah, of Limdat Torah and Kiyum HaMitzvahs. But the explanation for this, where do we see that Torah exemplifies the Avodah of Ben, and where do we see that Mitzvahs exemplifies the Avodah of Eved, we will leave for the upcoming Shiur.